You know we love our rebrand stories here at Sway Health, and I'm about to sit down with someone who did it in a very scrappy, startup-y kind of way, without a big budget, but with a clear idea of what they wanted to move away from. They've been with their original brand for a long time, and they decided to make a big switch because, frankly, their business and the way they're approaching the market has evolved. You're about to hear Jen Horonjeff, and she is the founder and one of the starters of Real Patients, formerly Savvy Co-op. We're going to get a chance to talk with her about that transition, how Real Patients came about, how that new brand is being received, and what that new brand is allowing her to do that the old one did not. Let's get to it.
Sway Health.
Jen, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to see you in person. I'm excited to be with you here at Vive in LA. Thank you for making the trip in just for this.
I did. I couldn't let you down.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that. And hey, thank you for being a soldier for making it, because there's been so many travel troubles. So really appreciate it, Jen. And I'm excited to get together with you because you have evolved from where you were, and I'm excited from a Sway Health perspective to ask you about the name change, the brand, and all of that. But before we get there, Jen, can you just, for the audience members who don't know you, can you give us a little bit of your background and some of the work you've been doing over the last few years?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's hard to tell my background without first saying I do identify as a patient. So first and foremost, I was diagnosed as an infant with multiple autoimmune diseases. I had a brain tumor as an adult, so that's what really informed me wanting to help patients and go into healthcare. I first became a human factors engineer and a human-centered designer, trying to study what matters most to patients. And I did that work in academia and consulting and industry. I also was then an advisor to the FDA and helped them understand. So I've really been beating this drum about really listening to patients for my entire professional career.
And that's one of your signatures, right? Is just the advocacy you have, passion you have for patients, and I think we're all better for it. And I still remember the first time I met you, with the puppets.
The puppets.
Yes, for the puppets. But Jen, over the last few years, of course, you've been the head of and championing Savvy Co-op, and recently you've gone through a little bit of an evolution to Real Patients. Can you tell me a little bit about the genesis of that journey? What sort of precipitated the need to switch, or the desire to switch? And then, of course, I'm going to ask you about how this positions you well going forward. But tell me a little bit more about the genesis.
Well, I think there's a few things. One is that when I originally picked the name Savvy Cooperative, I was very intentional to not have patients in the name. I was thinking both to not label it specifically as patients, because we all know that there's are they patients, are they consumers, what do we call it? And we involve caregivers. What happens if we evolve beyond just that? And we did. We were working with HCPs as well. But when it came down to it, our real signature was around getting patient insights directly from people with those lived experience. And so we just wanted to be a little bit more on the nose with it. So you knew exactly what we did, who we are. And the other funny thing is that people were constantly misspelling the name Savvy. All the time. All the time, with two A's, that I just never would have expected that. So you live, you learn, and you make new choices, and that was part of it as well.
I like that, because we don't talk about that in marketing sometimes, where you just come up with a name, and it was perfect. It was a really good name.
It was great.
But then it's a word that, as you put it, people aren't really 100% sure of how to spell it. Is it with two A's? Is it two V's? Is it with I've actually seen one with two Y's. Someone asked me one time, is that Savvy with two Y's? I'm like, that's a new one.
Just do double of each to cover your bases.
There you go. So that's the practical side, but also I love how now that you've gone through that journey, you realize that actually being very on the nose is very helpful.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we just launched our new brand, 3 weeks ago at a conference, and we had our booth, and already people were stopping by to be like, tell me about this, because they see it and they want to know more about it, as opposed to Savvy Cooperative, didn't really know what it was. So I was not a business person before this, and I am learning a lot, and 10 years in, finally making some changes.
Well, and let me go there. So from that business perspective or from an operations perspective, what is now this new brand, this new label around Real Patients going to allow you to do maybe a little bit easier than what was before?
So we've evolved sort of even how we think about doing patient insights. And as we've evolved over the years, we really heard a lot of our clients asking the same things of patients over and over again. How do you get diagnosed? How do you make treatment decisions? Where do you go to find information? What kind of technology are you using to support you? And rather than having just one-off little projects, we wanted to be able to collect that information at scale. And we now are living in an era of AI where people are hungry for this kind of data, but we feel very strongly that it should be coming from real patients. And that's what we see more and more of, is people relying on not even knowing what the data set coming from whatever LLM they're using is. And that could be coming from academic journals, which is usually coming from a provider perspective. It could be from social listening, which now is just tons of bots all over the internet. And I think we need to be more and more weary of that. Also, too, we don't actually know the identity of those individuals. We don't know their demographics. We don't know their diagnosis. And so that's something that we have really taken a stand, both at Savvy and now Real Patients, to verify everybody that comes and shares their insights here. And I think that's going to be even more crucial going into the future. So that's something that allows us to say, no, these are real patients. And even more, maybe not even more, but also exciting is that we have people that are looking at building AI agents or doing other things with our data. So that would then be powered by real patients. So now I've gotten to the knack of this branding thing. So hopefully this will take us into the next chapter.
I really like that. And it's very smart branding to say this is powered by Real Patients. Look at that. Look at that. You've thought that through. Well, and then what's the reaction been, Jen, to the new brand from the patients that you've been helping?
I think people really have been so supportive. And even interestingly, when I post on LinkedIn, I even told my team this. I was fascinated by how many voices that I hadn't heard in a long time were, sharing their support. A lot of that coming from the patient side. A lot of what I personally do is more industry and client facing. But so many patients that I've connected with over the years who have been following our work just say yes, thank you for really, making a stand that this is the perspective that matters, so that their voices aren't lost just on top of a bunch of technology that's running away.
And what's your internal team's reaction been to the new name?
I think everybody's excited about a refresh and also just be, more specific with what we do, because from a marketing standpoint, it's important to us if we're reaching out to people that we can already entice them just with the name rather than having to have a whole big explainer that goes along with it. Really what we do now is say, Real Patients, formerly Savvy Cooperative, and it's been important for us to make this change because as we move into the future, it's not technology so much that's going to be the big differentiator, it's going to be the data that is, and that data needs to be coming from Real Patients.
I love it. I love it. Now, this wouldn't be a Sway interview unless I asked this question, and that is, walk me through a little bit of the actual transition. Did you flip the website overnight? Did you switch all of the colors? Walk me through that part of it.
Okay. That's the scrappy part, and I love talking about it. So, yes, there was a lot of iteration, and yes, a lot of AI was used to make this possible. So once we picked the name, I also kind of just had a sense for sort of how I wanted the logo to kind of be. The logo, if you will, of Real Patients with the highlight is also a nod to probably only something that I find humorous, but to qualitative research. So I am a trained qualitative researcher, and back in the day, before we had all these programs, how you would do qualitative research coding is you would highlight. You would use your pink highlighter that said insurance issue, and you would use a yellow highlighter whenever you came across a provider challenge, and so on and so forth. And so that's really what we are anchored in at Real Patients, is qualitative research and telling those stories. So while we use technology now to help accelerate the analysis, still anchored in those sort of core principles and Real Patients. So there was a lot of iterating with AI to even come up with different mock-ups of logos. Then there was making the website, of which was very much vibe coded. And now I want to be clear, that's the front website that everybody's seeing. It is not our back end that is made very buttoned up for all the privacy and security reasons that we have. But from the front end website, yes, that was like messing around with vibe code. My co-founder Ronnie is brilliant with that, so being able to iterate, and then it would be a lot of me being like, well, actually, I wanted to do this, and he would just record me with my ideas and then push that out. And so a lot of back and forth, a lot of iterating, a lot of looking at other websites and saying, oh, I kind of like this. I like what they do with the colors here. I like what they do with the interactions here. So that's how we got it out. But again, it was sort of like a scrappy behind the scenes.
And was it a gradual switch, or was it an overnight flip the switch?
Oh gosh, well, I was at the conference when we did our official launch. Our developers too knew that there were things that needed to change over, because I was more focused on that website, the client-facing side, but we also had the patient-facing side, and we have a whole portal for them too. So we needed to get their system up and running, and there needed to be 48 hours to get things, turned over. So there definitely were things. It wasn't everything happened at once. It was this system's live and this system's live, and maybe more humorously from a marketing standpoint. When we did that and we then changed our domains over, then our HubSpot stopped working. And so we thought we had done that, but it didn't work. And so then we had clients saying, my proposal link's not working anymore. So it was a lot of a team effort coming together, a lot of activity in Slack channels of did you do this, and we need to change the signature on our emails, and I need to send out a calendar invite, but I realize it's going to my old calendar, not my new calendar. So
I love this. This is a great story because I think it epitomizes the scrappiness that you are and your team is, and it just goes to show you don't need a giant marketing budget to do this. You did this a lot with AI,
yeah,
but you were thoughtful about it. You thought about the website, you thought about HubSpot, even though it didn't quite work out that way, and then you came up with something using AI to really represent your ideas by picking and choosing things.
Yeah.
And again, so I gotta ask this: if someone out there is listening to this and watching this who is also a very small organization, doesn't have a lot of budget, what advice would you give them now that you've been through your own rebrand journey?
I think it's really understanding that something like AI can take you 80, maybe 90% of the way, but you still need that external help for that last mile. And that's something that I think maybe that'll change over time, but that's where I was struggling, thinking I could get everything from a tool, but we still needed to have developers, designers, et cetera, to help kind of get us that last mile. And if you're like me, don't wait until the last minute to do these things. I am somebody that works best under pressure, so I am aware that I will get it done, but it takes a lot of time. And so we had a whole set of things that we had to kind of go through methodically of, did we do this? Did we do that? And have we pre-ordered this? Is this live? And even saying that we were going to launch at this particular conference, it meant that we needed to submit our logo, however many months in advance. So while we actually thought we were going to do this rebrand in September with the start of conference season then, we were too close. And so to commit to doing that, if not all the paperwork was ready to commit and then have submitted the wrong logo, wouldn't have been a good look.
Well, Jen, this has been fantastic, and I really love everything you've shared, but I want to give you the opportunity to tell our audience why they should connect with real patients. What are some of the triggers, what are some of the things that if they have this problem or looking for a solution, they should contact you?
Well, especially from a marketing standpoint, if you're working in anything that's going to be touching patients and be patient-facing, it's about understanding where patients are coming from. And that's what, when we have teams that come to us that are working on patient education, marketing materials, there's some front end that's going to be involving the patient. Getting feedback from them to understand what those actual challenges, barriers, what the language that they use is all about. That's what we want people to connect to, the real patients that are at the core of all of this work, and not just guests. So I don't think that before I started all of this work in a business that I fully understood and respected marketing. But now I see it as a shame if we don't do it right, because we're leaving good solutions on the table if we can't correctly communicate them with the patients we're trying to serve.
Final question for you, Jen. Where can people go to learn more about real patients?
I'm so excited that I don't have to hopefully spell this all out anymore. So it is just realpatients.com, and I will leave it up to the audience to figure out how to spell it.
That's real with one A. Well, Jen, thank you so much for being on the program, and always love having you.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Hey, I really want to thank Jen for sitting down with me and joining me on camera to talk about their transition from Savvy Co-op to Real Patients. I absolutely love her story about the fact that people were misspelling Savvy. When that happens with us at Sway, and we do have two A's in our name, she didn't. But I also appreciated the scrappiness, the resourcefulness of using vibe coding, AI to kind of bring to life her vision and then handing it off to a team to then go and execute. I thought that was brilliant, and it's a kind of a nice little blueprint or playbook for anybody who's in a startup who just doesn't have the big budget for a brand agency or anything like that. She has proven that you can do it on your own, you can do it very effectively. I'm certainly excited for this part of their journey as they continue to evolve the patient voice, and as you heard, working with patient data in this era of AI. And hey, if you made it this far in the video, we would really appreciate it if you mash that like button and click subscribe. Also, head on over to Sway Health, that's Sway with two A's, .health, where you can find more great content like this. I'm Colin Hung, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.